Christian Nodal married Angela Aguilar 3 months after breaking up with Cazzu, the mother of his daughter. That alone was messy enough. But now there's a custody battle brewing that involves blocked passports, refused travel permits, and allegations that are making this one of the messiest breakups in Latin music history. And the craziest part? Both sides are telling completely different stories about what's actually happening. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why this situation is way more complicated than you think, and why the internet might have been wrong about who the real villain is. Let's get into it. First, let's set the stage because this situation has layers. Christian Nodal is one of the biggest stars in regional Mexican music right now. The guy has won 6 Latin Grammys. His songs rack up hundreds of millions of streams. He's basically Mexican music royalty. In 2023, he was dating Argentine rapper Cazzu, and they had a daughter together named Inti who was born in September 2023. Everything seemed fine. They were posting cute family photos. Nodal seemed happy. Cazzu seemed happy. The baby was adorable. Classic celebrity couple stuff. Then in May 2024, everything fell apart. Nodal and Cazzu announced their breakup. And just weeks later, Nodal went public with his relationship with Angela Aguilar, the daughter of legendary singer Pepe Aguilar. That's when the internet absolutely lost it. Because the timeline didn't make sense. How do you go from being in a relationship with the mother of your newborn baby to suddenly dating someone else that quickly? People started accusing Nodal of cheating. They started coming for Angela too, calling her a homewrecker. It got ugly fast. But Nodal and Angela both insisted there was no cheating. They said his relationship with Cazzu had been falling apart for months before they officially ended things. They said nobody's heart was broken. But then Cazzu herself came out and said that actually more than one heart was broken. So somebody was lying. And that's where this whole mess started. Because ever since that breakup, things between Nodal and Cazzu have been tense. Really tense. And now it's escalated into a full legal battle over their daughter Inti. And the core issue? Travel documents. Specifically, Christian Nodal allegedly refusing to sign the paperwork that would allow his daughter to travel internationally with her mother. Here's where it gets interesting. In late 2024, details of a lawsuit Nodal filed became public. The lawsuit was revealed by the Mexican TV show Ventaneando, and it contained some pretty serious allegations. According to the documents, Nodal claimed that he's been trying to be involved in his daughter's life but that Cazzu has been preventing him from seeing Inti. He alleged that Cazzu refused to process Inti's Mexican passport, which the little girl needs in order to travel to the United States where Nodal lives. The lawsuit also claimed that Nodal has been paying over 12 million pesos in child support over the past year, which is around $600,000. That's a lot of money. So according to Nodal's version, he's the good guy here. He's paying massive amounts of child support. He wants to see his daughter. But Cazzu is blocking him and refusing to cooperate with travel documents so that Inti can visit him in the US. That's his story. But then Cazzu told her side. And it's completely different. In August 2024, Cazzu appeared on a podcast called Se Regalan Dudas, and she opened up about what's really been happening. And her version paints a very different picture. According to Cazzu, she's not the one blocking travel. In fact, it's the opposite. She said that Nodal has refused to give permission for Inti to travel with her on tour. And this is important because Inti is a minor, which means she needs consent from both parents to travel internationally. Cazzu explained that she's had to deal with incredibly stressful situations trying to get permission for her daughter to travel. She described one particularly awful moment during a meeting with Nodal's lawyer. According to Cazzu, Nodal's lawyer basically told her that Nodal could revoke travel permission whenever he felt like it. She said the lawyer's attitude made her feel like they had complete control over her and her daughter. She called it one of the worst moments of her life. She said she walked away from that meeting feeling like she couldn't breathe. And then it got worse. Cazzu described arriving at the airport with a temporary court order allowing her to travel with Inti. But even with that legal document, the immigration officer questioned her. Asked her why the father didn't agree to let the child travel. And in that moment, Cazzu said she felt like a criminal. She wasn't a famous artist. She wasn't La Haifa, which is what her fans call her. She was just a woman being questioned about why she couldn't get her baby's father to sign a piece of paper. She talked about how the whole experience showed her how deeply misogyny is embedded in the legal system, and how the law often works against women in custody situations. So according to Cazzu's version, she's not blocking anything. She's the one being blocked. She's the one who had to get a court order just to travel with her own daughter. And Nodal is the one refusing to cooperate. So which story is true? That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, it's probably somewhere in the middle. Here's what we know for sure. First, there are definitely legal disputes happening. Both sides have confirmed that. Second, travel documents are absolutely an issue. Both of them have talked about problems with passports and travel permissions. Third, the relationship between them is clearly toxic at this point. They can't agree on basic facts about when their relationship ended, who cheated on who, or what's best for their daughter. That's a disaster for any co-parenting situation. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Because beyond the custody drama, Nodal is also dealing with another massive legal issue that could actually affect his ability to travel himself. Nodal is currently involved in a lawsuit with Universal Music where he's accused of submitting allegedly forged documents. The record label claims that Nodal and his parents submitted 32 contracts with forged signatures in an attempt to claim ownership of songs that belong to Universal's catalog. There was a hearing about this in November 2024, and while the judge decided not to bring Nodal to trial at that time, the investigation is still open. This is serious stuff. Document forgery is a criminal offense. And if the allegations turn out to be true, Nodal could face legal consequences that would definitely complicate his life, including potentially his ability to travel. So it's entirely possible that Nodal's own legal troubles are playing into this custody situation in ways we don't fully understand yet. Now let's talk about the money because that's become a huge point of contention. Nodal's lawsuit claimed he's been paying over 12 million pesos for child support. That sounds like a lot. But Cazzu has said on multiple occasions that the child support Nodal provides isn't fair. She hasn't specified exact amounts, but she's made it clear that she doesn't think what he's paying is adequate. And here's the thing about child support. It's not just about the raw dollar amount. It's about whether that amount reflects the paying parent's actual income. Christian Nodal is incredibly wealthy. He's one of the top-earning artists in Latin music. He does massive tours. He has lucrative endorsement deals. He just signed a big record deal with Sony Music. So while 12 million pesos might sound like a fortune to regular people, the question is whether it's actually proportional to what Nodal earns. And apparently, Cazzu doesn't think it is. There's also been criticism about Nodal's actual involvement as a father. According to reports, Nodal missed Inti's second birthday in September 2024. That's a big deal. Your kid's birthday is one of the most important days of the year, especially when they're that young. And if you're fighting for custody and claiming you want to be more involved, missing the birthday doesn't look good. Now, we don't know Nodal's side of why he missed it. Maybe he had unavoidable work commitments. Maybe there were logistical issues with travel. Or maybe he just didn't prioritize it. We don't know. But the fact that he missed it has been used as evidence by people who think Nodal isn't as committed to being a father as he claims to be. Let's also talk about the timeline that people keep bringing up because this is where a lot of the suspicion comes from. Nodal's lawsuit states that he began providing financial support for Inti on May 6, 2024. But he publicly stated that his relationship with Cazzu ended on May 8, 2024. That's only a 2-day difference. So people are asking, why would you start paying official child support while you're still supposedly in a relationship? That detail has fueled the theory that Nodal and Cazzu's relationship actually ended earlier than he claimed, which would support the idea that he was already with Angela before the official breakup announcement. Nodal has consistently denied cheating. He said multiple times that his relationship with Cazzu had been deteriorating for months and that he only got together with Angela after they split. But these little details in the legal documents keep contradicting that story. And that's why people don't believe him. Meanwhile, Angela Aguilar has been dragged into all of this even though she technically has nothing to do with the custody battle. People blamed her for the breakup. They accused her of being the other woman. They've sent her so much hate online that she's had to limit comments on her social media. And look, whether you like Angela or not, the reality is that she's not Inti's parent. She has no legal standing in this custody situation. But there are reports that Cazzu is uncomfortable with Angela being around her daughter. Which is understandable from a mother's perspective. If you just got out of a relationship and your ex immediately married someone else, you probably wouldn't be thrilled about your toddler spending time with the new wife. But legally, Cazzu can't prevent that if Nodal has custody or visitation rights. So that's another layer of tension. Here's what I think is really going on. I think both of them probably have legitimate grievances. I think Nodal probably does want to see his daughter more and probably is frustrated with logistical challenges around travel and custody. But I also think Cazzu probably has very valid reasons for being cautious about travel permissions and custody arrangements. When you have a young child and you're dealing with an ex who lives in a different country and who just married someone else weeks after your breakup, you're going to be protective. You're going to want legal protections in place. You're going to worry about what could happen if your child travels to another country and the other parent decides not to send them back. That's not paranoia. That's being a responsible parent. And the fact that Nodal's lawyer allegedly told Cazzu that he could revoke travel permission whenever he wanted? That's terrifying. Because it means Cazzu has no real security or stability when it comes to planning her life or her career around her daughter. But here's the other side. If Nodal genuinely wants to be involved and Cazzu is making it impossible for him to see Inti, that's not fair either. Kids deserve to have relationships with both parents when it's safe and healthy to do so. And if Nodal is paying substantial child support and trying to be present, but getting shut out, that's a problem too. The challenge is that we don't have access to all the facts. We're getting bits and pieces from legal documents, interviews, and social media posts. We don't know what communications have happened privately. We don't know what agreements they may have tried to reach behind the scenes. We don't know the full context of any of these situations. What we do know is that this situation is messy. Really messy. And unfortunately, the person who's going to be most affected by all of this is Inti. She's 2 years old. She has no idea what's happening. She doesn't understand why her parents aren't together. She doesn't understand why there's tension every time they have to coordinate custody. She doesn't understand why the internet is full of articles and videos about her family. All she knows is that sometimes she's with her mom and sometimes she should be with her dad, but that doesn't always happen. And that's heartbreaking. Because kids in custody battles don't ask to be in this situation. They don't benefit from their parents fighting. They suffer from it. The travel document issue is particularly tricky because both parents have legitimate concerns. Cazzu needs to be able to travel for her career. She's a successful artist with tours and commitments. She can't just stay in one place forever. But Nodal also has the right to see his daughter, and if Inti lives in Argentina and he lives in the United States, travel is necessary for them to have a relationship. The solution should be a clear legal agreement that protects everyone. An agreement that allows Inti to travel with her mother when needed but also ensures that Nodal gets regular, consistent visitation time. An agreement that prevents either parent from using travel permissions as a weapon or a power play. But clearly, they haven't been able to reach that kind of agreement. And that's why we're here, with lawsuits and public drama and a 2-year-old caught in the middle. So is Christian Nodal the villain here? Is Cazzu being unreasonable? Honestly, I don't think it's that simple. I think they're both probably making mistakes. I think they're both probably saying and doing things out of hurt and anger rather than what's actually best for their daughter. I think Nodal moved on way too fast and handled the transition to his new relationship terribly, which created trust issues that are now affecting the custody situation. And I think Cazzu is probably being overly protective in some ways because she's scared and hurt and doesn't trust Nodal anymore. Neither of those things makes either of them terrible people. It just makes them human. But it does make for a really difficult co-parenting situation. The bottom line is this. Christian Nodal and Cazzu need to figure this out. Not for themselves. Not for their public images. Not for their careers. For Inti. Because she deserves better than this. She deserves parents who can put their issues aside and work together to give her a stable, loving childhood. She deserves to know both of her parents without drama, without tension, without feeling like she's a bargaining chip in someone else's fight. And until Nodal and Cazzu can make that happen, this mess is only going to get worse.